Cashmere Technical Football Club, Caroline Mason. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Caroline Mason. I'm the Secretary of Cashmere Technical Football Club, and I have my colleagues with me, Bill Cowan, who is the President, and Lisa Young, who is the Operations Manager. So we'll just quickly run through our PowerPoint. Just how do I get it to change slides?
Oh, we'll get someone to give you a hand, but I think you just need to press the forward thing on the the arrow on there.
You can be in charge of that, Lisa. So firstly, we would like to acknowledge the support of Council in various ways to our club through the Strengthening Communities Fund and through the discretionary fund. We just found out yesterday that we'd had a grant from the Sprayton Cashmere discretionary fund, so we're very grateful for the support of Council, and we do recognise that Council has a range of priorities around spending our ratepayers' money, and that we're one of many groups that is looking for support. But there are a few things that we just thought was worth bringing to your attention today. So just by way of background, our club formed in 2012. Just advance. So we formed in 2012 through the merger of two long-standing clubs, Cashmere Wanderers and Christchurch Technical, also known as Woolston Tech. We started the dialogue of merging together before the earthquakes, and obviously the earthquakes did have an effect on our merger process. Our club catchment, if you like, extends from sort of Herne Road right round to Linwood and Woolston, and also includes Governor's Bay and Diamond Harbour in the hill suburbs. We have an active playing membership of around 1,400, and we have around 112 teams, and that ranges in ages 4 to 6 through to over 65s. We have our senior men's and women's team compete in the mainland Premier Leagues in both competitions, and are currently sitting top of the table for the men and close to the top for the women. We have 2 full-time employees, a football development manager, Aaron Clapham, and Lisa is our operations manager. So this next slide just illustrates what we consider our sort of catchment area. The key activities that the club is involved in pre-season, we run a range of activities for our junior players mainly, skills centres, elite training camps, fun camps and holiday programs, pre-season training for both juniors and seniors, and trials for team selection. Now those skill centres and fun camps and holiday programs are available to non-members, so they're open to the community. During the season we run a player development academy, and Aaron heads that, and that's about providing a pathway for our sort of keen and competitive young players. We obviously run the Saturday teams that play in the mainland competitions, and there's midwinter training for all of those junior teams, and social events, prize givings, fundraising functions and other social events. So a key, as well as obviously promoting the game of football, our club does provide a very important social function for our members and for the wider community. The issues that we have are around funding. Obviously we're a very large club, but our subs don't cover our costs of running. And so we have received support from the Strengthening Communities Fund, and we very much appreciate that. And we rely on that sort of funding to enable us to employ people like Lisa to help us run our club. And one of the things that we've highlighted in this submission is just requesting that Council consider ensuring that that fund is inflation adjusted so that it can continue to provide some level of support for these sorts of community-based organisations. One of our key issues is facilities and grounds, and this won't be news to you, but obviously in our particular part of Christchurch there is a limit to green space. Our key council grounds that we use, which at the moment is Centennial, Summerfield, Beckenham, Barrington and Hillsborough, all suffer from poor drainage and the state of the facilities. And so one of the things that we would like Council to consider is just improving those grounds and facilities and working with us as a club to improve those facilities for our members and for the wider community. Partly because of that limitation in green space, we do rely heavily on privately owned grounds at Garrick Park and Whittington Avenue. And we've been responsible for raising over $500,000 to rehabilitate both of those grounds because they fell out of the council's sort of area. Because there are no council grounds that are suitable for the level of competition that we're playing in, we do rely on those grounds in order to be able to participate in the mainland competition and to run our Player Development Academy. So one of the things that we're asking council to look at is to work with us and those private landowners, the Woolston Club in the case of Garrick Park and Ara Polytechnic in the case of Whittington Ave, to work with those organisations and ourselves in terms of providing a partnership going forward to help contribute to the cost of maintaining those grounds, bearing in mind that if those grounds weren't available, then the green space in our part of town will be significantly limited. One of the sort of unfortunate consequences of the earthquake was the loss of Lowood Lower Fields to us as a playing ground. Obviously that's now been acquired by the council for stormwater retention purposes, which is obviously a function that is incredibly important. But an unfortunate consequence of that was that we lost the infrastructure that was established at that ground, including floodlights and also use of the pavilion for storage purposes. And unfortunately, just the way that that process panned out, it sort of happened without any sort of input from us. So I don't think council was even aware that we had those facilities there. So we've had to replace those storage facilities at our own cost by installing containers at Whittington Ave. And the floodlighting infrastructure is basically lost to us at the moment. So we'd like to think we could work with council towards finding some solutions to that so that we can recover some of that loss to us. And finally, I think just in terms of the future for green space in our part of the catchment, it is limited, and the grounds that are there are, because of the nature of our part of town, poorly drained and the facilities aren't that flash. We know that Lancaster Park is coming up for consideration in terms of future use, depending on the stadium development, and we'd like to think again that council would give some consideration towards the future use of that ground and making it available for use for football pitches, including floodlighting and changing facilities. So that's basically a rundown of our submission. And I guess the opportunity now for you to ask questions.
Yes, Tim and then Phil.
Thank you. Just recently, Phil and my community board, which just gave you the funding, called for a report on the condition in the state of our parks and sporting parks in our area. So part of that could be that we also include you, so we get our council staff feedback, but also your feedback, so we get a 360-degree of say, for want of a better term, a true picture. Would that be open? You guys would be open to that?
Well, that would fit with the New Zealand Football ran a voice of participation survey last year, and one of the key feedbacks for our club was that generally members were very satisfied with the service, but the key issue was the grounds and the state of the grounds.
So you'd be open to that?
So we would be very happy to contribute towards that, provide you with honest, constructive feedback.
And if I may, just a quick second one. You owned the lights at the Woolston, the retention basins. Did you actually own those floodlights? So you've paid to put them in, etc., and now you can't use them?
Well, essentially,
they've been removed.
Okay, so yeah.
Part of the demolition of the facilities there. The floodlights and all of the services to provide, the switchboard, which was brand new.
And the storage building as well.
And we lost all of our storage facilities, as well as Linwood College's changing rooms and facility.
Okay.
But we contributed heavily to help the college, not just keep those up to date, but we also help them with their green space as well, because in that part of Christchurch, we've actually lost 6 full-size football fields post-earthquake.
Okay. Thank you.
And there are 2 of them. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Phil?
Thank you very much. Mine will be quick. So basically, you're really saying, look, Lancaster Park long term is something that would really help, but also that short term, you really want to be able to have a conversation with our park staff, and that, especially around those difficult to drain areas like the two parks, Summerfield and Centennial.
That's right. Yeah, those are the key pitches for us.
If I could just say, we have presented to Parks, and we've done a comprehensive report on the condition of all of the City Council owned green space, and that's been presented quite a long time ago, and we're working very well with those guys, and we understand there might be something like 14 grounds involved, but we're not saying upgrade all of them. We're saying let's do a good job of maybe a couple, and then we can function.
Right. Thank you.
Look, thank you very much for coming in, and thank you very much for your time. It does make a difference when people present and are able to answer questions, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Friends of Banks Peninsula, Suki Thompson.